Okay, let's talk about a hidden culprit behind some of the most frustrating audio problems out there, something called phase. If your music or your movies ever sound like they're just missing that key ingredient, well, chances are this is the reason why. Stick around and you are going to learn exactly what's going on.
You know that feeling, right? You're listening to a track, maybe watching a movie on your home theater system, and something just feels off. The bass seems to have vanished, or the entire sound just feels weak and thin, almost hollow. Yeah, that's a real thing. And we're about to find out exactly why it happens.
So, what's the secret? It all comes down to a concept called audio phase. At its heart, it is all about a hidden timing relationship between sound waves. This one idea is the key to unpacking, while everything else we're about to talk about.
So, what is it exactly? Well, to put it simply, audio phase is all about the timing relationship between the sound waves. You see, every sound wave is a cycle of changing air pressure, going from high to low and back again. Phase just tells us precisely where a wave is in that cycle at any one moment.
And why on earth does that timing matter so much? Because, and this is the crucial part, it determines whether those sound waves are going to work together and reinforce each other to get louder, or if they're going to fight and cancel each other out, getting quieter, sometimes to the point of disappearing completely. To really get a picture of this in your head, we use a simple model called a sine wave. Now, the trick here is to think of its journey not in terms of time, but in degrees, just like a circle. Trust me, this little shift in how you look at it makes everything suddenly click. So let's follow one of these waves on its little journey. It kicks off at 0 degrees. That's just normal ambient air pressure. At 90 degrees, boom, it hits its peak positive pressure. Think of this as the air molecules getting squished together or compressed. Then it swings back through 0 at 180 degrees, and at 270, it hits peak negative pressure, where the air molecules are all spread apart. And by 360 degrees, it's right back where it started, all ready to do the whole dance over again.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. What happens when two of these waves meet up in the exact same space? Well, they interfere with each other, and this interference can either be constructive, where they build each other up, or it can be destructive, where they basically tear each other down.
Check this out. On the left, you've got waves that are perfectly in phase. Their peaks line up, their valleys line up, and they combine their energy to make the sound way louder. But on the right, you see waves that are out of phase. This is where the peak of one wave meets the valley or the trough of the other. And the result? They cancel each other out. The sound gets quieter, or in a perfect world, poof, it just disappears.
Now let's clear up something that trips a lot of people up: the difference between phase and polarity. They are not the same thing. Phase is about timing, that relationship we measure in degrees. Polarity, on the other hand, is about the physical wiring of your gear, the positive and negative connections. Reversing the polarity, like swapping the red and black wires on a speaker, is the action that causes a perfect 180-degree phase shift. So think of it like this. Flipping the polarity is like flipping a switch, and the phase shift is the result.
All right, enough with the theory, right? How does this stuff actually play out in the real world? Well, you'll find these phase issues popping up way more often than you'd think, everywhere from a pro recording studio right into your own living room.
These are the usual suspects. The number one culprit is just incorrect speaker wiring, where one speaker is pushing air while the other is pulling. In a studio, if you put two mics on a guitar amp at slightly different distances, you can get phase issues. At home, your subwoofer's sound might not be arriving at your ears at the exact same time as your main speakers. And heck, even sound just bouncing off the walls in your room arrives a little late, creating this weird cancellation effect called comb filtering. And the end result of all these problems? It's that same hollow, thin sound we talked about right at the very beginning. You get this massive loss in bass, and your stereo image gets all weird and unfocused, almost like the sound is coming from inside your head instead of from the speakers in front of you.
So, how do we start to fix this? Let's talk about the single most important first step you can take when you hear something's wrong. Here it is, the big takeaway. If your audio starts to sound thin, or that solid center image, like the vocalist, seems to disappear or get all fuzzy, the very first thing you should do is check your speaker wiring. Make sure the positive wire goes to the positive terminal and the negative goes to the negative for every single speaker. It is, without a doubt, the most common issue, and thankfully, it's also the easiest to fix. So now you've got the tools. You know what to listen for. The next time you're in your car or listening on your headphones or just sitting on your couch, pay close attention. Can you hear those subtle, or maybe not so subtle, effects of phase cancellation? Now that you know what the signs are, what phase problems can you hear in your world?